We begin this hour with some breaking news. Iran says it has launched dozens of drones and missiles against Israel. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard says the assault is in retaliation for an attack on its consulate in Syria, which killed several generals. The Israeli army says its defences are ready to shoot down incoming drones and missiles.
Iran launched drones from its territory towards the territory of the State of Israel. We are monitoring the threat in the airspace. It is a threat that takes several hours to reach the territory of the State of Israel.
Well, just a short time before Israel officially announced the attack had started, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released this video message.
Israeli citizens, in recent years and even more so in recent weeks, Israel has been preparing for the possibility of a direct attack from Iran. Our defense systems are deployed. We are prepared for any scenario, both in defense and attack. The State of Israel is strong. The Israeli army is strong. The public is strong.
All right, let's cross live now to Jerusalem, where DW correspondent Tania Krämer is standing by for us. Tania, great to see you. So, what do we know about this attack?
Well, as you said, we've been hearing from Iranian media there that the drones have been launched. This has been confirmed by the Israeli military, calling it a dangerous and severe escalation. As to speak, it is an unprecedented situation, an attack from Iran. Now, the Israeli army says that more than 100 UAVs or drones are at this stage. That's what they are tracking and what they are closely following. Now, the total scope of that and also the targets are not yet clear, whether they will be targeting military destinations or civilian, like softer targets. There are some reports that they could go towards the south of Israel, towards the Negev, or also towards the north. But this is all at this point speculation and unconfirmed. Now, there also had been reports that missiles were launched, but the army here, the military, has so far not confirmed any of that. Now, those drones, as you said, they are expected to reach Israel in the coming hours. We know that the War Cabinet, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they're meeting at this hour at the Kiryat. This is the Defense Ministry. They're in the fortified rooms there. And of course, the focus right now, as we understand from army officials here, is on the interception of those drones. But also, of course, there's the question how Israel then will retaliate.
Many questions unanswered at the moment. Now, Tania, we understand that authorities are calling on the public to follow instructions of the Home Front Command. So have any instructions been given yet? And if so, what are they saying?
Well, there were instructions given like early evening, actually, saying that gatherings have to be limited. Also, that no educational activities will take place from tomorrow. Actually, that were the latest guidelines. But also, people are of course called to basically stay put. And if air raid sirens will go off, and we don't know how precise they are going to be. Depending on how those drones will come into Israel, then they will have to seek shelter. Now, we also understand that the airport will be closed. Also, several countries here in the region have closed their airspace. We're hearing at least from Jordan. And also that the GPS has been scrambled to make it more difficult for those drones to come into the airspace. Now, of course, those home front commands will be updated constantly. And of course, this also impacts here in a way the whole region. I mean, this is really an unprecedented attack that we haven't seen yet like this.
Tania, how have we reached this point?
Well, as we heard from you, this has been pretty much an expected attack. It's not really coming as a surprise. Now, Iran and Israel have been fighting a so-called shadow war for many, many years with cyber attacks, but also mainly through its proxies, Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq. But there has been an attack on April 1st on the consulate in Damascus, and after that the supreme leader, Iranian supreme leader Khamenei, has said this has been crossing a red line for them. It was somehow expected that Iran will retaliate, and that comes of course now at a moment where we have a war between Hamas and Israel in Gaza for 6 months now going on. There have been very, very high tensions or cross-border attacks for 6 months between Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and Israel in northern Israel, and there have also been attacks by Houthis mainly on southern Israel, the city of Eilat. So this comes all together now. So it didn't really come as a surprise. We've been seeing in the past days, the lead up to this, saying more and more indications that that Iran will actually come through with its threats to attack Israel, but it wasn't quite clear, will it attack from its own soil or will it go through its proxies? This is also still, of course, a possibility that we are seeing basically a multi-front war developing from this, with more, with ballistic missiles coming in from different areas. So this is really a very, a tense moment is probably not the word for it, but this is what we are seeing right now, how it will unfold here in the coming hours.
Tania, how prepared is Israel to combat this attack from Iran?
Well, you have to say, and we heard it over and over again from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Actually, the country has been preparing from that for this very moment, for such a escalation with Iran. So, of course, all the air defenses are in place. You have different air defenses. You have the Patriot. You have the Iron Dome systems, depending on what missile or what drone they have to put up against with. But also, of course, there's an indication the US will also stand by with Israel together. We just had a visit of the CENTCOM head in Israel. We heard it also from US President Joe Biden. So we have all the forces here on extremely high alert, on the highest alert the country can get. So they will be tracking those drones, and we understand that they will try to intercept them even before they reach Israel. So this would also mean they would have to collaborate or cooperate with other countries here in the region. Potentially could be from the Jordanian side, but all of this, of course, is unconfirmed. But this is what we are hearing right now from the military. This is their strategy. But again, then the big question, as I said earlier, would also be, some of the drones might get through. We don't know the scope of how many drones will come through, and also what the targets are going to be, and then again how Israel will then basically also respond to this attack.
Thanks, Tania. As you said, tense is perhaps not the most appropriate word, but a very tense situation at the moment. Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. And from Jerusalem, let's cross now to our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Stefan Simons. Stefan, good to see you. So tell us, what has the US publicly said about this attack?
Well, first off, the U.S. president is, as we speak, meeting with his Security Council, with his National Security Council. And I would bet my left arm that they are actually linked into the War Cabinet meeting in Israel, trying to coordinate and trying to get really a clear picture of what is going on as Iranian. And we have pointed this out. Iranian media now reports that Iran has launched a first wave of ballistic missiles, not drones, ballistic missiles, not cruise missiles, ballistic missiles towards Israel. That would be an escalation. And that's what the U.S. said earlier, that they are aware of what is going on from Iran. That statement stems from when we were all talking about drones still, which are slow moving and making their way over to Israel, allegedly, and which would have been or will be shut down so the military says, in Israel as well as here in the United States, before it actually enters Israelis' airspace. With ballistic missiles, that's a different challenge. Now, we haven't heard anything from the US, from the White House, beyond a statement earlier from the National Security Council, which said that the US will stand ironcladly steadfast with Israel in their effort to defend itself from anybody, and of course from Iran and from Iranian attacks on Israel. That the US has confirmed in this statement with the National Security Council here that those drone attacks from hours ago were launched from Iran, from Iranian soil. And that is, as my colleague Tania in Jerusalem pointed already out, unprecedented and historic, because that hasn't happened before. Now we are there. We are allegedly there, right. That it's not only drones but also missiles now launched against Israel, and the US will soon probably come out saying what they more concretely do to help Israel, militarily speaking, and in intelligence matters, to stem this attack.
Well, the US, Stefan, insists its support for Israel is, quote, ironclad. So, what is that likely to mean in concrete terms? Do we have any indication?
Well, the Pentagon and the US government is not really free giving with information in detail about what that means, but experts here in the US and people who are looking into this for a while say that this should be a reference in geospatial information, radar information, intelligence, which is shared by the US promptly, like in real time, with Israel Defense Forces and Air Defense Forces. Remember, the United States has many assets in the region, the Red Sea, in the Eastern Mediterranean, in the Strait of Hormuz. There are Navy assets, and all those Navy assets have very, very sophisticated radar systems on board, so there is something possible. Nobody said that this will happen, but there is, on military side, from military experts and observers here in Washington, already talk about the U.S. perhaps, even if necessary, launching U.S. fighter jets to do what I just said, shoot down any threat in the skies before it happens to land or hit any target in Israel. The Jordanians have closed their airspace, and there are reports that they have said also that they will shoot anything down which will get into their airspace. So that is what the U.S. is actively probably doing right now. Intelligence sharing, military radar information, anything which could protect and will protect Israel from getting actually hit by a missile or a drone.
How concerned is the US about Iranian proxies also becoming involved?
Hugely, huge concern. So we have three escalations here the US is acknowledging and really, really not happy with. One is Iran launching this retaliatory attack on Israel from Iranian soil. That makes Iran a party of aggression here, and not just a proxy saying Hezbollah in Lebanon or Iranian assets in Syria or in Yemen. But now this has happened. Now we have a second escalation from drones to reportedly missiles. And now a third one would be, and that would be constituting a even bigger, a huge problem for the US and for anybody else involved in the region there, directly or indirectly, if proxies like Hezbollah in southern Lebanon would start to strike Israel, more so than they have already done, as Tania pointed out earlier, because there is daily back and forth shooting across the border between southern Lebanon and Israel. But Hezbollah has reportedly 150,000 missiles stored and ready to be launched against Israel. Hezbollah has had time to prepare for any kind of aggression against Israel. Hezbollah has fighters in Syria which are battle-hardened. They know what they're doing. These are not beginners in warfare. There's assets in Syria which could strike. There is Shiite in Yemen. So this is a huge concern and would make this conflict put it to another level.
Thanks, Stefan. DW correspondent Stefan Simons in Washington. All right, just to recap, here's what we know about the situation unfolding right now. Iran has launched dozens of missiles and drones against Israel. They could take several hours to reach their targets. Iran says the attack is in retaliation for what it calls numerous crimes committed by Israel, including this month's attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is prepared for a, quote, direct attack from Iran and is ready for any scenario, both in defence and attack. US President Joe Biden cut short a weekend trip to return to the White House to meet with his national security team and monitor the situation. The White House says the US will stand with the people of Israel as Iran attacks. All right, well, for more analysis, let's speak to Marina Miron from the War Studies Department at King's College in London. Marina, great to see you. So what kind of drones are we talking about here?
Well, I suppose the only drones that Iran could use, at least from what we know that Iran has in its arsenal, are Mohajer 10 drones, which would have the necessary equipment and the reach to reach Israel, because the air line between Israel and Iran is about 2,000 kilometers. And so these are long-range drones which can fly up to 24 hours. So I expect that we're talking about these Mohajer 10 drones.
Marina, is it possible to shoot them down?
Well, absolutely, it is possible to shoot them down. Of course, it depends on the quantities they are coming in. And apparently Jordan has closed its airspace, and Iraq as well. So as it could be that the Jordanians will already try to intercept some of the drones which are coming to Israel. And of course, Israel is now on high alert. But as I said, it always depends on the number of drones. They could potentially saturate Israeli air defenses. However, we don't know anything more about the quantity and what is to be expected.
Apparently, it's going to take several hours for the drones to arrive. As you said there, you know, there's information that we don't have, but is this time enough to prepare for the impact?
Well, I think, yes, it seems to be that these drones have been spotted very early on. They are fairly slow. So the IDF is aware of the fact that they are coming. They have prepared their air defenses to intercept any drones and to avoid a potential damage. And I think Daniel Hagari, the spokesman for the IDF, made it very clear that they know the approximate timings the drones will arrive. So it's not an unexpected move.
Now, Israel has the highly sophisticated Iron Dome air defense system. Is this breachable?
Well, it is breachable, and we have seen it after the October 7 attacks. Every air defense system is to a certain extent breachable. But as I said, in this scenario, it depends on whether there will be another drones or missiles launched, perhaps from somewhere else. And maybe this is just sort of a decoy. And allegedly, Iran has also launched missiles which will be much faster than the drones. And there is also a potential that Hezbollah in southern Lebanon might use its missiles in order to overwhelm Israeli air defenses and be able to destroy some targets inside Israel.
Do you expect the drones to be the only kind of attack from Iran?
It is difficult to say. It is surprising that Iran, knowing the potential consequences, has actually gone for an attack from its own soil. And it could be that Iran kind of used this attack, which is like an attack, but since there is this early warning and the drones are so slow, it gives Israel enough time to prepare. But potentially, and I think maybe from a military perspective, it would be more logical for Iran to rely on its proxies who are much closer to Israel. They can act much faster, and they would rob Israel and, of course, the United States of the possibility to launch a counterattack on Iranian soil. So I think there is a possibility that these drones are not the only thing that we will be seeing here, trying to hit Israel. I'm not sure what will be happening with those reported ballistic missiles, which Iran might have launched. We will have to wait and see what happens.
All right, thanks, Marina. Worrying times. Marina Miron.
Thank you for having me.
Iran's state TV has confirmed that the country's Revolutionary Guard have launched drones and missiles at Israel. It said the drones were launched in response to Israel's attack of the Iranian embassy annex in Damascus at the beginning of this month. According to the statement, the residents of Iranian border towns of Iran and Iraq have seen the drones flying towards Israel. All right, we can now speak to Hans-Jakob Schindler, a senior director of the Counter-Extremism Project, a non-governmental organisation. Welcome to DW. So what do you make of the events currently unfolding?
Well, of course, it is an escalation by Iran of serious proportions, but always with Iranian reactions with a twist. It's not the normal thing to launch an attack and immediately announce this on statewide television so that the world knows what's going on, even if you don't have intelligence sources to see what's going on. So we really have to wait and see how far the Iranians want to take it. So far, it could be a scenario that it is a show of force, that they are willing to launch attacks from their own territory, but they do it in a way that gives maximum chances of Israel and the US to limit damage in Israel.
Has this happened before, that Iran fires dozens of projectiles towards Israel from its own territory? Is this the first time?
No, this is really the first time. I mean, there was a very serious attack without prior announcement in combination between Iran and the Houthis against a strategic oil facility in 2019 in Saudi Arabia, which caused significant damage. The main problem at that time was the drones were too slow to actually automatically trigger their defense system. Hence, I assume, the more than public warning by Iran that it had launched this very slow-moving drones.
Do you think that this drone attack is the only attack that we're going to be seeing?
Well, we have, according to the Iranians, now drones and missiles. Now, I absolutely agree with the previous interviewee that the Israeli air defenses are very good. They are bolstered by American air defense systems at the moment. So these missiles, if there are not hundreds of them, and there's no report that there are going to be hundreds of them, nor would I think Iran would be willing in a wave of attacks to deplete its whole entire arsenal, they should have no problem dealing with it.
How do you expect the Israelis to react?
Yeah, that is the real question here. So it will really depend on how many of these missiles or drones actually make it to Israel. Jordan has already closed its airspace and says it's shooting down everything that flies over the airspace, and the direct line between Iran and Israel in the middle is Jordan. So it depends on anything, if anything lands in Israel. It is also a very high gamble for the Iranians, because if they have now launched this attack and nothing gets through, it's a major embarrassment for their military capability and will make them look very, very weak. I do not expect that the Iranians are at this point activating their Hezbollah assets, because these are meant as a response to an Israeli attack, always been meant as a response to an Israeli attack on Iranian soil. So should Israel retaliate, then the likelihood of Hezbollah being really majorly drawn into this conflict is extremely high.
Hans-Jakob, what role does the US play in this situation?
Very importantly, we've seen in the last couple of days that the US administration really on various channels, through very clear communication by the president, diplomacy via Arab states, China, Turkey, Germany, the UK, plus, of course, declassifying intelligence, saying that they are seeing drones and missiles being moved in Iran to shape the situational awareness of the Iranians, saying, look, be careful what you do. This can get a major escalation, knowing that the Iranians also understand they cannot withstand a combined Israeli or US counteroffensive.
What do you expect Iran's proxies in the region to do? You touched on Hezbollah there before.
Hezbollah is clearly controllable to 100% by the Iranians. Really, it's Iranian creation. They will attack when Iran asks them to, and they will not attack when Iran asks them to. The Houthis in Yemen are far less controllable by the Iranians, far less predictable on how they're going to react. So I would expect, if there is an Israeli counterstrike, that we definitely see Hezbollah. But whether or not the Houthis are going to intensify their attacks on international shipping in the Red Sea as a response to what's going on right now, even if there is no Israeli counterattack, that is anyone's guess. Hamas is really, militarily speaking, on its last legs in Gaza. We haven't seen any rocket attacks from Gaza in a while, so I assume there's really no possibility for Hamas to strike again. That leaves the proxies in Iraq and Syria. They could have been activated a couple of days ago already. There were some quite symbolic minor attempts to attack US installations, but they clearly haven't been activated by the Iranians yet.
Hans-Jakob, thanks for your analysis. Hans-Jakob Schindler from the Counter-Extremism Project.
Thank you so much.